Welcome to the Savory Scoop.
This is a safe space where we talk about mindset, wellness, and nutrition. Today's conscious topic is self-discipline. What comes to mind when you hear the word self-discipline?
You know, I used to think self-discipline or the word discipline was something negative, but it has shifted for me over the years.
It definitely has a negative connotation, right? Like disciplining your children or scolding, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Usually has a very negative association with it, but it doesn't have to. It can be a way of keeping yourself in line.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Because when you as a kid, like when you're disciplined, you feel like you're forced to do something you don't want to do, right? Or you are, given boundaries, but you want to test the boundaries. So I think it's human nature to not want to feel trapped. So as a kid, we are conditioned to look at it as something negative, even though, like you were saying, Debbie, it can be something really beautiful if we can really kind of peel, the layers off of that word.
For sure.
Yeah.
Even with children, it can be discipline through teaching. It's just, you think of discipline and you think of like harsh, ramifications of something. So it doesn't have to be that way.
Definitely. When you're in childhood, it's the parents, the elders exerting that control, right? Like regimenting, you got to do this, that. And then when you get older and we talk about self-discipline, it's we're in charge of that, of implementing, right? The discipline, the boundaries, what to do and what not to do and all of that.
The healthy habits.
Yeah.
That help you to succeed.
Right. It really is, yeah. And, and to be completely honest, I still don't like the word discipline. In yoga, there's this word called Tapas. It's one of the practices. It's one of the niyamas, which is translated to observances. And Tapas, it's translated to the fire within, or it can be this effort that you bring to a certain intention. When I look at it because discipline, like you said, it's just a word, end of the day.
Yeah.
But we're always associating words with experiences from the past. So for me, just learning that yogic teaching of tapas, I was able to kind of detach from that and be like, okay, what's my intention here? And what's the effort I need to put into this? That's helped me.
I love changing negative words to positive words. So I love that. Discipline to effort.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Everybody try and do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Reframing.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Choosing your definition for a certain word. I mean, a word is just a label, right? But discipline, like you were saying, it can be a really beautiful thing when it gets you to your goals, right? Because a life without any kind of discipline, it's a bit aimless, right? You're not really working steadily towards something if you're not able to stay, if you're distracted, right?
Yeah.
I think discipline really is it's a product of focus and intention, as you were saying. Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's all about creating habits and consistency that help to keep you on track. And holistically, I think it's really good to look at it from all standpoints of you've heard me talk about nutrition before, being all of the things that you put in your body, not only the foods you feed yourself. So it's like, where is your self-discipline, or what are your boundaries when it comes to your nutrition? Like, what are you listening to? What are you watching? Who are you surrounding yourself with? What are the foods you're putting into your body? So on and so forth.
Right.
That's a form of self-discipline.
Really is. It's a form of discipline can be a form of self-love, which is a topic we've covered. Definitely check that out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all related.
Mm-hmm. And I like what you said about distraction. I think now most of us have mastered the art of distraction. And when we are trying to create an intentional life or lifestyle, it's almost like you have to unlearn all these habits we've created where we're distracted either just with all these dopamine hits, social media, the food is entertaining, and food is all around like us. There's no place you can go. Most of us, of course, there are countries where people are struggling to find food, but most of us, especially if you're in developed country, food is just all over the place. You go to work, someone's bringing you something. You go to a friend's house, there's lots of things in their pantry. Our own house,
Yeah.
when we open the pantry, what's in there? Right?
Somebody's birthday at church, there's temptations everywhere too in terms of that. Yeah, absolutely. I think when our like dreams or our goals are vague, it's really easy to rationalize all the little exceptions that we make.
True.
That really we end up then not getting around to the specific things that we need to do in order to reach our goals. We rationalize things, and so I think intention really is at the basis of it, because why would you want to be disciplined with doing any one habit, right? It's the why that is really critical.
Absolutely. And getting very clear with that is important.
Yeah, the why is everything. Like anytime you want to transform any part of your life, we have to look at the why. And it's interesting, like when I was a kid, sometimes when you're growing up, your why might be something that was passed down to you by your parents or your culture. So as a kid, when I was going to school, I was very competitive. I was always, studying hard, staying up late nights, and we're talking elementary school and middle school, trying to get like the best grades. But it came from a place of needing to please my parents, needing to please my teachers, and, possibly peers. I can't I was a kid, so I can't really dive into it, but I definitely know it was a pleasing of the authorities, parents, teachers. So that why can only take you so far, right? At some point that's not gonna work, because I really, you get to a place where you don't have to please your teachers or your parents. So then you have to, and it can also be unhealthy if you are constantly striving to please someone else. And that's where you get burnout and this, we had another episode on perfectionism. You become a perfectionist where you're so hard on yourself, and then you finally just, give up everything because that's just not something you can sustain.
Yeah.
So for me, after I got into meditation, after I started learning the yogic teachings, for me, it was sort of understanding what's my why, by kind of, all the noise that we have in our heads, noticing that, and then kind of releasing those, and then journaling, what's my why for this particular goal or transformation that I'm going on. And that why can be something that takes you down a path of like a unique journey. It's going to be very different from what you are taught.
Yeah. I often think about what would my future self do, or that ideal version of myself, or that person, that best version of myself that I'm working towards being. And then that helps me to take the steps that version of myself would take. Like at night, am I not looking at the phone an hour before I go to bed? Am I wearing blue blocker glasses so that all of that unhealthy light doesn't affect my sleep? Am I not drinking water a couple of hours before eating, drinking caffeine, etc.? Am I waking up every morning and doing my affirmations and doing them before I go to bed as well? Like the rituals, the steps, the habits that, that person that I'm always working towards being would do. Like, I think to myself, what would she do? But it's like, what would I do? What do I do? What am I doing to become the best version of myself, or the healthiest version of myself?
For sure.
And that's not to say that you shouldn't love yourself when you're not the best version of yourself either, because true self-love is loving that version of yourself that's like not the greatest version of yourself, just as much as you do when you're like on your A game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you were talking about meditation. For me, that has become an extremely crucial, practice. You mentioned it, in order to create clarity for your intention for the self-discipline, but also, in and of itself, it also enhances focus, right? So you're not as distracted. You're more mindful of that clear vision, and it also reduces stress. So all of that help improve your self-discipline. So for me, that's definitely one of the tools that has helped me with discipline. I feel like when I meditate, everything in life, right, gets better. I'm much better at sticking to my daily habits and really working towards my goals, right?
Yeah.
Things become so
Absolutely.
clear.
For sure. Meditation and the foods that we eat have a huge impact on our state
Yeah.
and how we function. And we're able to be more focused and self-disciplined when we eat foods that allow us to be lit up and focused and have clarity. Because there are the foods that are going to make you feel all tired and lethargic and foggy, and you can't even, think of anything, and you have no motivation. And then there's the foods that make you feel lit up and motivated and, like you want to take action. And it's different for everyone. So I think it's important to find those individual foods that work for you. Your happy foods, and then your foods that don't make you feel so good.
Absolutely. And nutrition, I mean, that's so important. But when it comes to nutrition, or when it comes to wanting to lead a healthy lifestyle, I think where most of us get stuck is the words that we choose. For example, we always say, I want to be more healthy. Or we'll say, I want to lose like 20 pounds, or I want to be more smart. So the words we use are so vague. There's no actionable item in those words, right? So to me, what works is, okay, if I am trying to transform, I make a decision. First decision is, don't try to transform all the aspects of our lives all at the same time, right? We don't want to be tackling finances and health and relationship and whatever else is out there. We don't want to be tackling all of that all at the same time, because we're going to get lost in it. So you choose one, and then you ask yourself, okay, I know I want to be healthy, but what does it look like every day? So you start with that one actionable item, which is, I'm just going to walk every morning. That's all I'm going to do. You're not thinking of, what am I going to eat? What am I going to, or am I losing 10 pounds? No, you're just going to create that. And one of my favorite writers, teachers, I would say, is Leo Babauta. He wrote The Zen Habits. And he always talks about these actionable habits. If we don't have that, it's just a concept out in the air. And then we listen to all these podcasts, including this, and we're like thrown like all these words at us. There's meditation, there's mindfulness, eat nutritious food, read this book, or, exercise, do yoga. And it can be so overwhelming. So for the first month, he always says, choose one thing and then make that a habit. And it may take 3 months to be consistent with a certain habit, and that's okay. And then 3 months, because it's not a race that you're trying to win in a year. It's a lifelong practice. And then it may take 2 years to just master 3 habits. But those 3 habits, once we master them, they go a long way.
Yeah, it's all about creating a sustainable, healthy lifestyle. When it comes to nutrition, you can eliminate one thing. Let's say your goal is to eliminate sugar, gluten, dairy, soy, whatever it may be, processed foods. Start with one.
Yes.
Start with one. And then you will see eventually you're going to want to eliminate something else. But start with baby steps, be gentle on yourself, and then you're going to want to do more.
Yes.
You can't just do everything all at once. It's too overwhelming.
It is.
And most likely, it's not going to work.
Right.
I remember when I was studying for the boards, which, by the way, takes so much self-discipline, right? To sit and study for something, longitudinally. And I read a book on willpower, and basically there's it was a lot of research and everything, but one of the things was, if you practice self-discipline or discipline in one area of your life, it'll improve your discipline in all areas of your life.
True.
So just like that, picking that one thing, while you're doing that, it's actually improving things in other areas. And then it'll make it even easier, right? You'll build up some momentum and then be able to then get on to the next habit or goal that you have.
Yeah.
And Simi, you were saying earlier about, being specific. That is so important because, exercise, doctors often say like, oh, eat healthy and exercise.
Well, what does that mean?
What does that actually mean? So there's something called, SMART goals where you're specific. It's measurable, right? It's realistic. And so, for instance, when it comes to, say, exercise, you could say, well, what is it that I'm actually going to do? Yoga. Okay, where am I going to do it? Okay, I'm going to do it at home, right? When are you going to do it? Well, you got to pick, okay, well, I guess, Tuesdays after work or something are a great time, and then like maybe Sunday morning I can squeeze it in there before this, that, or the rest of the day. And then how long is it going to be? Duration, right? So I'm going to do it for 20 minutes or whatever it is that is realistic
or 5.
And achievable. Exactly. 5 is great too. And in fact, I remember anytime you're trying to start a habit, it's always a great idea to do it like, just like the smallest amount. But make sure you're doing it every single day.
Yeah. Consistency.
Every single day. Yeah. So I remember when I was in residency, my goal was like, okay, I'm going to do some amount of yoga, any amount of yoga, every single day. So I laid my mat out, and to this day, I always keep my mat laid out so it's there, it's accessible. And so whether it's like I go, on YouTube and I pull up a yoga video, or I just go and freestyle it myself, I was like, I have to get onto the mat. Every single day. Doesn't matter how long or anything, but just get there and then, see what happens. Right? And so with that, it's like you're training your brain to always, go to the yoga mat and do that, And then you also associate that place in your home or that place, whether it's the gym or wherever it may be that you're going, with that habit. So you're creating, it's an automatic action, right? A set of actions.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
I lay the mat out, and if I can do 5 minutes of yoga in the morning, I feel great, and I just go with the flow and do whatever my body tells me.
So what's one habit that you ladies are hoping to create now where you're at?
Mine is definitely doing more yoga. Because before I opened the restaurant, I was doing yoga every day. So I do, like what you said, I keep the mat out, or I roll it up and it's right there, and I lay it out and I just get on the mat, and however long I do yoga is however long I do it for, and I feel so much better. And doing shavasana and the meditation and my breathing and journaling. And everybody always tells me I'm super disciplined when it comes to food, but that's because of the nature of my food allergies. And I'm very in tune with my body. So those are the things that I do to keep myself healthy.
Yeah, I think for me, definitely meditation, because I find that if anything else is off, so my sleep is oftentimes off, my, say exercise or anything else, emotional reactivity, right? For me, meditation is that one thing that if I do that, I make better decisions. So for me, that's the one thing for me to focus on. So, and even if it's, right, like 5 minutes, and usually I get my meditation done in the morning, and I'm trying to also implement it at night, because I definitely find that I have a harder time like shutting my brain down at the end of the day. And so I have found that I've recently started to try to meditate before bed as well, just for 5 minutes or 10, and that's really helped a lot. So that's something that I'm trying to implement. And what definitely helps me is that I have my yoga mat right by my bed, and my meditation cushion's right there too. So it's a visual cue, which is really important with habits and discipline. Just makes it easier. And so then I I do it, and I go to bed, and I found it's really been helpful. So yeah, in the morning, and now I'm trying to implement it in the evening to help me shut down from the day.
And you know what? Another form of self-discipline is your thoughts. Being aware of your thoughts and how you speak to yourself, right?
Absolutely.
That's very important. Be very aware of your
Everything
thoughts.
starts here,
Yes.
for sure. Yeah. We have a lot of things in common, but so I have a yoga mat in my living room, in my yoga room. So like, it seems like all the yogis, or the ones who actually practice yoga, have the yoga mats rolled out in their house, because you can't help but just like get on the mat and do something. It doesn't matter what time of the day it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love those habits. Those are like great habits. And that's the whole point, right? To know that the practice never ends. It's not something where, I'm not saying there aren't enlightened beings like, Jesus, Buddha, and I'm sure maybe there are people here, but many of us are on this journey where we are still trying to unlearn a lot of the unconscious things that we've picked up as kids and continue to pick up, because we have a family, we go to work, so we're picking up things constantly, different energy, vibrations. So there is that level of bringing awareness, like you're saying, to all of that, and then releasing what doesn't serve you, unlearning a lot of the things, right, that we're picking up. So it's a practice, and the beauty of the practice is that once we commit ourselves to a certain habit, it's like brushing our teeth.
Exactly.
It comes so easy. Like, if someone asked me before 2009, do you pay attention to your thoughts or your bodily sensations? I'd be like, what are you talking about? I never heard of that. Like, isn't that a crazy thing to do, right? Because I knew nothing about that, right? I was on autopilot. But once I learned about mindfulness, I learned, meditation, and there's this understanding that meditation is to feel good, and it really isn't. Meditation is learning about yourself.
Forming a deep sense of self-awareness.
Yes, it's learning, okay, what is your conditioning? What are your thought patterns? And sometimes when you're sitting in meditation, you may come out not feeling great. And that's also part of meditation. That's where you write things down and say, wait, wow, like all these things came up, and it's becoming more clear who you think you are, or what you think you are in this world. And until you shed some light on that, you can't transform it, or you can't evolve, right?
Absolutely. The process of behavior change, or becoming disciplined in any area of your life, always has to start with awareness, right? And I think often a lot of people also say, when you monitor, right? When you monitor how often you're doing that thing that you're trying to do, it helps you see the reality of, oh, I'm really not doing it too often, and then it'll help you actually make it, it'll help you create a more regular habit. But I think one of the, in terms of starting with awareness, one of the good questions to ask yourself would be, does this behavior help me become the type of person I want to be, right? And so I feel like, meditation really brings that clarity. So whether it's a bad habit you're trying to change or a good habit you're trying to implement, a little bit of reflection really goes a long way when it comes to that, right? Is this, these types of foods I'm putting into my body, is it helping me to become the type of person I want to be? The meditation, is that something that's helping me, right? And so reflecting on those things, I think, definitely helps at least set the stage for the actual implementation of that habit.
And checking in with yourself.
Yes, that's everything.
Yeah.
Right? Moment to moment. And this is an interesting question that I've gotten a couple of times, actually. It is, we're all going to die, right? So why not just enjoy life? Like, eat whatever you want, do whatever you want. Why does it matter?
Because you won't have a quality of life.
Exactly.
A good quality of life.
And if you are, great genes, like
Yeah.
I'm so happy that you have that ability,
Some
and,
people
and
do.
you're right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's great. But most of us, as you get old, the genes may be great up to a certain point, but you're going to get older, things are going to shift, and it's the quality of life. I mean, you can get hit by a bus tomorrow. I mean, but we're not trying to, it's not as if we're saying, oh, we have the secret to extending our life till we're 105. No, we're just saying, how do we create a life that is fulfilling, right? That is filled with a sense of purpose. And this whole concept of discipline, I think, goes back to how we started talking about the why.
Yeah.
Like, what is the intention behind that transformation you're seeking? And some of us may not even know the why because we haven't sat with that question. And that's okay. There are people out there, communities out there that can help us find the right intention to create a lifestyle that is, that you can sustain. Right?
Yeah. And help you to figure out what the steps are that you're taking to get to where you want to be.
Yeah.
I think, you reminded me of, when we were, you mentioned like, some people just, let's just do whatever, we're only here for a short amount of time, do anything. But when you're actually disciplined and you create good habits that, carry you later into life, you actually end up having more freedom to do the things you want to do.
When you're older. For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so not just in health, but also like in terms of goals, right?
Yeah.
In terms of achievements that you want to, just personally want to meet.
Yeah.
Right. And so you end up because of the discipline, you end up being able to do what you want to do. Because otherwise, without good foundations, right, you can't really, achieve what your ideal vision of yourself without actually having creating that good foundation.
Yeah.
Habits and discipline.
Yeah.
So it's ironic, right?
Yeah.
That like discipline, that thing that's supposed to be so like rigid or has a negative connotation, really can end up giving you a lot of freedom.
Yeah. Doesn't have to be negative.
It doesn't. And I can't emphasize enough, choose that one thing.
Yeah.
So speaking of freedom, I had made the choice of going to the gym, and so it kind of cut out the choices or the unbalance and emotions that I used to go through about trying to see if I wanted to go to the gym or not. And then another huge part of my life recently, and it's not just recently, it's actually been quite a few months since last October, as I cut out alcohol. And that was a huge first step. And after I completed that process, and I always consider this flipping the switch. So it's just like a light switch, right? You only have two variations. You have on and off. So it's either dark or light. And so whenever I flipped the switch on alcohol, it led me into focusing more on my body and emotions and figuring out my hormones, gut issues, and everything else flowed in. And so it has created that freedom because it's not a choice anymore.
It's so true. Since I stopped drinking alcohol, I have my personal growth. I have grown like in so many areas of my life. So I can totally relate to that.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
And I get to tell these stories because I'm in the events industry, and people are just like, why are you not drinking, or can I get you a cocktail? And I flat out say like, no, I'm good. I actually don't drink anymore. And then we get into the story of why that is, because not many people in the state of Florida, or people that I come across, actually don't drink, or that just have cut it out. And so when I tell them my story, almost every person that I tell my story to is inspired.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful thing because now I feel like an inspiration to other people.
Exactly.
Ooh, I love
that
that.
so much.
That is so beautiful because, we all look up to people who are not doing what the mainstream
Yeah,
is doing,
for sure.
right? There is some, because, most of us just follow what everyone else is doing. And then you always meet that one person who doesn't drink, and they're constantly at like these social events. And I'm like, well, how is that person? Like, is the person having fun? Yes,
Yeah.
she's having fun. But like, how do you do it? How do you say no? I
It's
thought it's so
self-discipline.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really
I used to drink
is.
a lot. And, when I cut it out, I never like turned back. What I stopped doing was I stopped getting drunk.
Right.
That's a form of self-discipline. So now every once in a while, if I have a drink, I'll just have a couple sips and that's it. But I don't need to get drunk because I feel like I'm not escaping from anything anymore. And so many areas of my life have transformed. So I love that you're doing that.
We have to create a podcast just for alcohol.
Yes, we should.
Yeah, we
Yes.
absolutely should. But with what you were saying, it reminds me of how, it's like your self-control discipline is like a muscle. It gets stronger the more you use it,
Yeah.
right? So like probably when you started on that journey, or when I started on that journey, I was like, well, it was like a decision I had to make every time, right? And then when I started to say no, it got easier to say no.
Yeah.
And then it just got easier and easier. And just like it's been with all the other things that I've kind of like cut out or paid attention to, toxic relationships and all these
Yeah.
things. So it's like it gets stronger. It's a muscle that gets stronger the more that you work it. Definitely.
You're
That's
setting
how-
boundaries.
Yeah. Another topic we should explore.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for setting boundaries.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like we're in a good spot to wrap up this episode.
I really love
Yeah.
that. That was really beautiful.
Great
Thank you
job,
for sharing your
ladies.
stories.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, it was wonderful. So what's one tip we want to leave everyone with on this topic today? Each of us can kind of share one tip.
Meet yourself where you're at.
Yeah, I would say just pick one thing to start.
Yeah.
I would say love yourself through that journey.
It's just like a light switch. Just flip it and you're going to be okay.
It's true.
Yeah.
Just do it. Like Nike, right? Well, thank you, everyone, and we will see you at the next episode.
Thanks for joining us.